Hello, and welcome back to this one-off edition of the Only Swans Podcast, this virtual one, which is not what we want to do, but we thought it was about time we bring it back, hopefully ahead of more regular recording again in the next few weeks. So it's very weird to be sat in our rooms doing this, but how are you, Carwyn?
Good. I think it's pretty terrible getting the view of the people, seeing you on a screen instead of in person. So I do feel for them.
Yeah, well, we'll see. Well, hopefully it'll be just as good as our normal offering as an audio experience, but as a visual experience, I do slightly fear.
Yeah, I mean, you've hardly got HD definition on your
No,
laptop there, have you?
No, I am getting a new laptop for Christmas, hopefully. My dad will be listening, so hopefully.
Well,
Um,
hopefully we won't have to do another one of these online, to
yeah,
be
exactly.
honest. But
But no, I'm liking the shirt behind you on the wall, even if
yeah,
nothing else.
yeah,
Very nice.
fantastic.
And I think we should probably start this podcast in the only way we really can by giving you a bit of a congratulations. So many of you will have seen on social media, I'm sure, that Carwyn recently got engaged on holiday in Greece. So congratulations.
Yeah, thank
And
you.
yeah, delighted for you both.
Very kind, Ollie. Very kind.
You
I'm sure.
nervous?
I'm sure. Your girlfriend is in the wing waiting.
So why have we been aware? I said we should address at some point on my notes. We're both doing masters at the moment. I'm not in Swansea anymore. You are still in Swansea, but yeah. So we're hoping to have something back soon. Once we've got a new venue sorted, we think we've got something that'll work for both of us. And hopefully, we'll be able to get back to more regular recording. But it's nice to be back, even if
Yep.
this isn't how we'd normally want it. How do you think the season's gone so far?
Well, I think we always take these breaks at really terrible times, don't we? Because you think the last time we took a break, what, Modric and Snoop Dogg came in, and
Yeah.
now the last thing on the internet of our opinions is us saying, "What a brilliant window!" We're going to be top six, and it's not quite gone to plan, has it? Really?
I think you should address something else you put on the internet before we get started. The Russell Martin video got a lot of
um,
flack for that.
well, he was actually filming this room again. So great things happen. Yeah. I knew the reaction it would get. And to be honest, I don't know. I personally, I'm happy with who we appointed based on the little bit I know. But
Yeah,
at the time, oh, I thought Russell Martin was, the one. I thought he was really the best option for us.
yeah, I agree. But as you say, the last thing we sat here and said on the podcast was how excited we were at the window. The season hasn't gone as planned, does it? We
No,
are already one manager down. And I think it's just safe to say the squad isn't as good as we thought, is it?
definitely not. I mean, I think it is just a typical fan reaction in it. You look at someone like Manuel Benson and you think, Manuel Benson, wow, what a fantastic signing. But then when you look at it, he hasn't played football in 2 years. So, it's all sort of dreams. And I think this is why we aren't in the recruitment field.
Possibly so, yeah, because we, as you say, we looked at this and thought that it was really good, but things have gone far worse than we expected. I mean, one thing that certainly did go far worse than we expected was the appointment of Alan Sheehan. Um,
Yeah.
I still maintain I think we had to ride it out, but I don't know about you.
I think we did, yeah. Like we said it on the space a few weeks ago when he was sacked. At the end of the day, no matter who came in, if they underperformed whatsoever, the whole narrative would have been, well, we had a guy there who had just won five in a row, and we've gone and appointed someone else who would have been. And we know what this fan base is like in terms of those sort of opinions. And we saw it with Sheehan. I mean, the people who didn't back Sheehan from the beginning were, victory lapping all the way home when it turned out it didn't work. And it would have been the exact same if a different manager had came in.
Which is not a mindset I can really get my head around. To be honest, I can't understand like victory lap in your own club's failure. It's never made sense to me, but
No.
so be it. But we've got Vitor Matos now, which is, I mean, still a relatively new name to us, isn't it? But what have you made of things so far? And Matos, any signs of improvement? Would you say, or and
I
how big
think
is the task facing him?
I think one thing I like about Vitor so far in comparison to many other coaches is just his honesty and his sort of his opinions on the game in press conferences, especially. I think managers have the ability now to really get away with just saying, the basic throwaway comments after games like we were unlucky, whether it was 1-0 or 4-0, the players dug in and worked hard, all that. Whereas Matos has come out in both of his press conferences so far and, really said the reality of both games.
Yeah, we're sitting in watching those reaction videos, and you're at least sitting there thinking, yeah, what he's saying, I think, is what played out today, which is
Yeah.
often not what could be said under Sheehan. And I think the honesty is quite refreshing. I was fed up of hearing we were unlucky today, when in
Yeah.
reality we were dreadful most of the time. And frankly, we have been pretty dreadful all season, sadly. I agree there was sort of green shoots of optimism in the first 20 minutes under Matos at West Brom. I think there was possibly some in the first half at Derby as to what he's going to look to do. But the players just look miles off it. I don't think it's his fault, but something is just so wrong at the moment.
Yeah, I think to, go 2-0 up in the first, 15 minutes and throw it away in the second half, concede 3 goals and lose the match. And especially in the way we did, I mean, some truly terrible goals. It is worrying. And you sort of look at it now, where 20 odd games in, these players have had long enough to sort of adjust, I'd say, a lot of them. So it's almost like, where are the points going to come from when you're in that
Yeah,
situation and throwing them away?
because we're 21st in the table, but expected points has us 23rd. Like, we are playing badly, but we are performing badly, I should say, in terms of points. But the numbers have us playing even worse than we are currently, which is pretty scary given you think there isn't much lower we could go, really.
Well, the fact that we're almost level with Sheffield Wednesday in that metric is pretty mental, isn't it?
And we have one thing that stood out to me when I was looking through the stats earlier is we have the worst XG per shot in the division, which that might sound like quite a bizarre thing to worry about, but it's like it basically dictates we cannot create chances. We are struggling to create many chances anyway. And the ones we are creating are low quality, hell of a lot of shots from distance. We just cannot break a team down at all.
Yeah. Well, it's almost like a worse nightmare, isn't it? During the last few years when we've refused to shoot from distance and everyone's been screaming, shoot in the crowd. And now all we can do is shoot from distance. You think like Galbraith's goal against West Brom was from a mile out and very lucky. I mean, the keeper definitely should have saved it. Vopotnik is just rifling them from absolutely everywhere.
7 goals from 2.7 XG is not something that can continue. I think it's safe to say, isn't it?
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, Opta has us to finish on 50.9 points, which last season would be enough to keep your heads above the water. The season before it wouldn't. Birmingham went down on 50 points.
Mm-hmm.
So we are in a real fight at the moment. It seems like we're only getting worse. The defense is getting leakier and the attack is just as impotent as it has been the entire time, really.
Yeah. It's very worrying, isn't it? I mean, when you spend £15 million in one window, you have one of the highest net spends in the whole of the league. You barely lose anyone from a squad that was, described by even us as pretty weak, and you somehow get worse. There's something wrong there. There's something really gone wrong.
How can we get out of this mess? I know you're not the man paid to make these decisions, but what do you think? Because I have my thoughts.
Well, I think for a start, everyone does need to get behind the manager. He is the only man that is going to turn this around and motivate them. But ultimately, I think you could put anyone in that dugout. I don't think it would make a difference. This is down to the players. The players need to step up. It's a simple fact. I think there are so many of them who, just look like passengers out there every week. And it's gotten to a point where you can't have that many passengers in a football pitch in the Championship.
No, I agree. I think we need to be seriously radical about this because, I mean, take the sort of Russell Martin approach of which he did by when he was here, which he did very much by like force to do it. But his approach was have 14 or so people I can rely on, every week and just limp to January at the moment, because right now there are so many people who, in an ideal world, you do not want to see play for us. I mean, I'd be looking to sort of lean on the players who have performed at this level before, and especially have performed for us.
Yeah.
And that is your Fultons and your Cullens. And in the case of, obviously hasn't performed for us yet, but Burgess has performed at the level before.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you have to lean on those players. And for the likes of Ida, Stamenic, Vidal, Ronald, I don't think they should be involved at the moment. They're playing that badly that you say you've got a month, either really up your levels, or you've got a month to find a new club, because you won't be playing a further part here if you carry on like this. The level right now is shocking.
Yeah. And I think, of course, that is very radical, isn't it? But people always talk about chances and players needing chances. I don't think there's really a player in this squad, except for sort of your Bobby Waleses, who hasn't had a fair shot.
Mm-hmm.
You look at
I would
Waddell or Inusa, they've had plenty of chances to prove it. And what they've shown, a handful, they've shown one or two good games. The City game, Waddell and Inusa were both good. The QPR game, Waddell was good. And Inusa was good in the Birmingham game. Besides that, we are watching completely lackluster performances, and they're getting away with it because it's the players around them. It's the Liam Cullens, it's the Fultons, it's the players with the agendas against them that are taking all of the flack.
I don't get it. I really don't. In terms of, like, don't get me wrong, have people like Cullen performed to the level this season? Absolutely not. But I see people like calling out on social media saying, "Oh, we should be playing Waddell every week and forget Cullen." And it's like, I've seen very little difference in terms of performances. But if you're going to lean on one guy, surely it's the one who's done it for us before, not the one who we've seen nothing positive of in a Swans shirt.
Well, it's like, what are you basing it off? I mean, a cool flag, a price tag, a apparent link to Borussia Dortmund. At the end of the day, Liam Cullen is rated by the international coach. He has been rated by manager after manager after manager. What do all of these professionals see that the fans don't, is what I want to know. I think somebody that has scored 12 goals at the level last season, has been a key part of the squad for years now, deserves plaudits. Whether or not, as you said, I don't think he's performed to the level this season. He looked pretty poor at the beginning of the season, but so have most of the squad. What's the difference between Cullen and all these players that are sort of being protected?
Yeah, there's no one you could really say has performed well other than Vigouroux. I think he's the most obvious.
Yeah,
he's got Player of the Year wrapped up at the moment, but
yeah,
I really do think they're all underperforming, and I feel sorry for the new young players in many ways. In terms of, the young lads we brought in from abroad, your Vidals, your Anusas, because we haven't given them an environment to succeed. If you are going to bring in players like that, you have to bring in experienced people who know the level, who can almost coach them through a game. We lost Joe Allen and Kyle Norton in the summer. I mean, I don't want to take a victory lap on this, because I said how annoying that was at the start of this, but I stood up in a fans forum last April and said to Richard Mont, who's obviously not at the club anymore, "We are losing 1,000 EFL appearances there or thereabouts this summer. What are we going to do about it?" And the answer was next to nothing.
Yeah.
Because no matter, we recruited Cam Burgess and Ethan Galbraith. Now, I think there's a bit of, I don't want to call it deception, but like, we signed Yalkoué on loan from Brighton, Stamenic from Forest, which makes it look like they have played in this country before. They hadn't. They've just been out on loan from those clubs and had never played a game. So every one of our signings, and Benson, I should have said as well, pretty much came from abroad.
Yeah.
Now, you have to give these players time, because it does take time to adapt. But to adapt, they need to be in the right environment. And this isn't the right environment for those players at the moment.
I think it's a completely negligent and naive sort of strategy to just go out abroad and try moneyball your way up. It's never going to work. This league, you need so much experience. Every team in this league complements, when they go abroad, they bring in an experienced head. In an ideal world, in my eyes, I'd be signing, if we're going to sign as many players as we did this season, I'd be signing, 3 players from abroad and 6 players from the EFL experience because you look at teams taking our out to contract players in the past, like Coventry have got Bidwell, they've got Latabodier, they've got Grimes. They are top of the league. They have got an absolute ton of experience in the EFL.
Yeah, because you need people to set a culture, and who is setting that in that dressing room? Though there is next to no leadership, and that's not on the players. That's on the people who've built the squad. Unfortunately,
Yeah,
we've got Burgess, who's vice captain and has come in and been that immediately. We've got Cabango, who has improved in terms of his performance levels since the captaincy, mostly, apart from the past few weeks. But is he a natural leader? I'm not sure he is. I'd imagine, if I had to guess, I'd imagine Burgess is pretty much de facto captain in that dressing room. And then there's Santos, who barely plays but has captained Bolton before. We have to bring in more leadership, because who are the people setting that right culture when we lost two people so crucial to that in Allen and Norton
yeah.
over the summer?
It's not even just necessarily leadership. It's the experience that can get you through a game like Saturday, a game where you're 2-0 up and now you're under the cosh. It's those players on the pitch who can sort of up the level and keep you performing and not make you turn to long balls for 70 minutes of a match. But we don't have that. That is the massive issue.
And I think that's where people like Cabango and Burgess, who have played hundreds of EFL games, but clearly at the moment aren't stepping up and doing that, do deserve a little bit of criticism, because that's the role they should be doing.
Yeah.
But to do that, you have to be performing yourself, because how annoying would it be as a pro to have someone barking in your ear constantly who's messing up all the time themselves? You just wouldn't listen to them.
Yeah.
And at the moment, they are also performing just as poorly as everyone else, sadly. But I mean, this is the problem, which kind of perhaps invalidates what I just said. You have so many players who are performing so far off where they should be at the moment.
100%.
Even for young lads coming in from abroad who need a bit of time to adapt to the level, I think some of these you've already seen enough to say, yeah, they're never going to be good enough.
Yeah. And, you even look at players that have been here for years now, Ronaldo and Iom. I think the narrative around them was always, they'll take time, they need time. But they've had a lot of time now, and I'm still,
oh, gosh, yeah.
And it's kind of funny because I think it was probably the last one we did, or the one before. That's how long it's been. It was during the Ronaldo purple patch, and we said, has he finally come good? The answer was no. Certainly no.
Now, Ronald has had a sort of like slightly tumultuous 18 months here in terms of he's had 3 coaches in that time.
Yeah.
But since the day he signed, we have not seen any sort of improvement.
No, he just still looks just as raw as
he's the same player now as the day we signed him. And that is a damning indictment on us, but also on him as well, I think. I think we have to try and just get out of some of these bad contracts we're in January. We've spent a fortune on a lot of players, and you almost kind of just say they're all available, even if you probably wouldn't want to write some of them off this early. You just have to get money for whoever you can, whoever still does have a good reputation, just so we can reinvest it. I mean, would someone take Adam Ida off our hands? Maybe. Would somebody take Inusa off our hands? Maybe. Riddell, possibly. Just so we can go out and invest again in January. But the problem is, it'll be the same people signing the players in January as signing in the summer. So
yeah, and I think that might be a bit radical. I don't disagree with some of them, but I think a guy like Inusa, we haven't quite seen it all yet. I do think.
I'm sorry that these wingers are
I don't know what our problem is when it comes to signing wingers. I was saying this to the boys the other day when we were at the Football Content Awards. We always seem to sign a winger. We always seem to sign a winger who is just missing the major trait of end product. Every winger we sign, they're fast, They're good on the ball, but when it comes to crossing the ball, when it comes to trying to hit one in the net, no chance, no chance. Every single
but
winger.
this is what really frustrates me is we've paid a fee for Anusa that could potentially rise up to about €6 million.
Yeah,
There's a hell of a lot of money.
yeah.
Like, he could be a brilliant player one day, don't get me wrong. But you cannot convince me we couldn't have got better for that
Well, I
price.
mean, do you see that goal Damari Gray scored for Birmingham the other night?
Yeah.
Could you ever imagine one of our wingers cutting inside and doing that?
No.
You
No,
know,
but like,
and that's the level.
you could sign, you absolutely could sign probably three better players for that price, unfortunately. But
Yeah,
when you're spending £1 million on somebody like Ronald and those two cost that fee. There is a level of risk in that. They are,
yeah.
high risk, high reward type signings.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're spending €6 million potentially on a player, now of course the way that deal was structured is like, if we ever spend 6 million on him, he will have been Pele for us.
Yeah, and we'll
But
be in the Premier League.
yeah, I can't imagine many of those add-ons are being hit at the moment. But if you're spending that much money on a player, you want them to be the absolute sure thing.
Yeah.
And I cannot understand. I mean, then there's the Ida one, which is just the most egregious of the lot, isn't it?
I am, obviously it's been mentioned many times now whether or not it was 7 million quid. Now, whether it was or whether it wasn't, still just an absolutely baffling signing. I know, a lot of people are gonna sit and just chuck that on OD or chuck it on Sheehan or whatever, but it is the club's job to decide whether to sign these players or not. They could, he could have gone and said, I want Admida, and they could have said, no, that's ridiculous.
Hmm.
Why would you pay that much money or even close to that much money for Adamida? I think,
Hmm.
it was always a bit of a risk with, how he looked at Celtic in terms of his form and that. But regardless, he's just no different to Vopotnik. He is a worse version of Zan Vopotnik, pretty much. He offers nothing different.
And what I'm going to do here is something I don't like doing, which is very much calling out a specific player. But what we saw from Ida on Saturday was absolutely shameful. He walked around the pitch after coming on. That is a man who doesn't want to be here. His head is not in this at all. He came here, probably was promised, don't get me wrong, probably came here, promised to be the main man, and that simply hasn't been the case because you cannot take Vippy out based on current form. So he is down tools completely. If Bobby Wales was on the bench on Saturday, you'd have brought him back off. It was embarrassing what we saw from him.
Yeah. And the
He
worst part is
walked.
that
He
deep down,
literally walked around constantly. I
Mhm.
didn't even see him break into a jog. It was shameful,
Yeah.
as I say.
And deep down, I do think that he has the pedigree to sort of, improve. I do think that he's got it.
Absolutely.
He's got it in him. We've seen him score 2 goals at Villa Park in the fucking Champions League, for Christ's sake. But for some reason, his attitude is just a disgrace.
Mm. And as I said, I don't like calling players out, but when you see what we saw on Saturday, I'm sorry, that is indefensible.
Yeah.
I'm sure he would say that he did put in the right amount of effort, but come on, that was not what I. It's unlike. It frustrates me even more because we have a new manager now.
Yeah.
You'd think fresh start, desperate to make an impression. So what is going on? Don't get me wrong; these players are probably shot of confidence, and it's obvious to see how. But you cannot tell me this is like as an audition, a first audition to the new man. What is this?
Yeah. I mean, I'll always back players and I'll always back managers. Or literally all my life running this page, I have, continuously backed just absolutely any
And
player in
we've
a
never
struggle
called
period.
anyone
But
out, have
no,
we?
no. But
Like a
this
specific
is very
player.
hard to do now because I think the difference is we've been working with, square pegs and round holes for absolutely years. But this squad was meant to be the one. They've proper sold us this. They've spent an unbelievable amount of money on this, and it looks worse than it did last season when we were running with Florian Bianchini up front.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think there's always been a level of even if we weren't performing, they're trying their best.
Yeah,
They are going out there. They are putting in a shift. They have, Under Russell Martin, we didn't have the players in certain positions. We didn't have a right back at the club. Even last season, we were terrifyingly short in some areas at points. Went into the Cardiff game not knowing if we had any fit senior centre backs, and they would go out there, even if ability could be called into question at times from certain people. You would come away saying, okay, they may have performed badly today, but I think they're trying their best. I don't know if you can say that at the moment.
No way.
I don't think they are. I think there's a lot of people who have down tools already, and we have got 2 games coming up that are way, way too important for people like that to be involved.
Yeah.
I would say, I think Ida should be out of the squad on Saturday.
Do you?
Yeah, I would say you
Wales
bring Wales in. I think you have to, because we have to make an example out of what we saw last Saturday, because that cannot be tolerated. Because if that becomes tolerated, others who aren't trying their hardest at the moment, but aren't not trying to that level, if that makes sense, are just going to think that's acceptable. And then we're in a whole world of trouble.
Yeah, 100%. So we have 2 season-defining games coming up, really. 2 games that, if we don't win, you would be very worried for, the future of the league we play in next season. What do you make of them?
2 tough tests. I don't think just because they're down there with us in terms of league position, we can look at them as easy games. I don't want to go full manager talking in a press conference of no easy games at this level, but Oxford are going to be coming into Saturday full of confidence. I mean, they beat Ipswich last time out, so why would they fear us? But I mean, I also think they have some players who can hurt us as well. The likes of Will Lancashire scored a few goals up front this season on loan from Spurs. Mark Harris will want to score against us more than probably any other club because he's a Swansea boy.
Let the Mark Harris stuff die.
Between his teeth. Whether he will, he's in red hot form for his standards after not scoring since Boxing Day. Scored last time out, so
I love how you've written your bee in his bonnet. What? I love that you've written in our notes a bee in his bonnet.
That isn't what I meant. What's the phrase I'm looking for?
God knows, but
teeth or something. Yeah, I don't know.
God knows, but that is certainly a term.
Yeah, that's definitely not right. No, but they are season-defining games for us. I really do think that. I mean, both at home, we should be expecting 6 points. I don't really think we can get away with a whole lot less. If you want to stay in the division, you have to beat the sides you're scrapping against at home.
Yeah.
And these aren't going to be easy games. I mean, we know Portsmouth didn't sign that many players in the summer. We know exactly what Portsmouth can do to hurt us. We saw it last season.
Which was probably the most depressing away game I have ever been to. The
last away game you've been to, wasn't it?
Cardiff was after that, mate.
Oh, of course it was, yeah. But no, it was one of the most depressing days I've ever done. Well, my dad has done 3 away days with me. One was that one. The other was the one before, was the Southampton one when we lost 5-0 the year before. And before that, Reading at Christmas time when we lost 2-0. He's doing Coventry with me on Boxing Day this year.
At least you're not taking him down south for once.
Yeah, exactly. But I think it could be just as bleak, if I had to guess. But no, the games against Coventry aren't going to be defining our season. It's going to be
and I mean, Portsmouth, they have got good players who, as we've said, hurt us in the past. I mean, Josh Murphy, ripped us to shreds that day. Colby Bishop is a fantastic attacker. They have still got quality in that side, and a manager who I know you like. So
I like Senior. Yeah, as you say, we know Portsmouth can be a threat. They've got a number of players who can hurt us. Murphy, Bishop, both haven't been at their best this season. Connor Chaplin as well, a player who was excellent last time he played at this level. If any of them turn up on the day against us, they've got Segacic, the Australian guy who's started really well in the Championship. If any of those players turn up, they could really hurt us. And I think Pompey play a style that doesn't suit us at all to play against. That high pressing, pinning us in. I mean, they're going to put us under pressure at the back when we're trying to play out, and we could be in real trouble if we get
Yeah.
that wrong. I think the Pompey one I think is tougher than the Oxford one. Oxford are gonna sit in and try and hit us on the break.
Yeah.
And be a bit more conservative. Whereas I think Pompey will come at us a little bit more than Oxford will. Because I mean, it's a Gary Rowett team, we know kind of what you're gonna get there. Whereas Pompey are gonna kind of have nothing to fear against us. But even then, we lost to Oxford at home last season, so who's to say we won't again?
Yeah.
But if we lose both of these games, which I don't think we will, I think we will get something out of at least one of them. We are in dire straits. We could be cut adrift.
They are massive. And I mean, the Oxford one especially is an important statement because we have them twice in the same run. You know, we have them the last game in December as well, don't we? So,
yeah, I've never seen us play two teams so close to each other as that.
Yeah.
What do you think when it comes to January window we can do then?
I mean, we are just going to have to try throw a bit of money about, aren't we? And it's awkward because we've spent so much in the summer, and I doubt we have much PSR wiggle room to really play with. But what else can you do? This squad is clearly lacking quite a lot.
I agree. I think we are just going to have to throw money at the problem. That's what I said earlier about trying to get money for players we might not massively want to sell. I mean, an obvious candidate who we could try and get something for is Franco. Hasn't performed well this season, but would have interest from last season. I know a lot of people disagreed with me when I said over the summer I think we should at least be listening to offers for him. I think that's even more so the case now. He's one you imagine could have suitors because at the moment we'd be spending money we don't have in terms of both. Well, the owners are rich enough to sort of foot the bill, but PSR wise, it doesn't matter because at the moment we are right up against it. I mean, I don't think you are either an expert in exactly how this works, but you look at the amount of money we've spent and something isn't adding up.
No.
In terms of how this is sustainable to do it again. I mean, there's a few sides in the league, us and Wrexham. No, forget that. I mean, you look at the sides in the league who have spent the most and probably have the lowest levels of sort of commercial income. We are one of them.
Yeah.
Of course, we have more commercial income than we did, but I doubt it's caught up to the levels that we spent yet.
No,
and we could be really up against it in terms of PSR. Now, what sort of players would you want us to be targeting?
Well, for a start, I think we should be looking at who we should recall. I would be recalling Cam Congreve if it's a possibility.
Yes.
Every time I've watched him, he's looked great, and I think he is a direct winger, which is exactly what we are missing right now. If it is no possibility, I would be looking at recalling both the boys from Falkirk. I'd be recalling Lissa because, of course, you know, he can cover that fullback slot, and Kyrell Wilson just as an option because, again, you know, he's looked direct in a few games I've seen him and just about what we need.
Yeah, I had a conversation on Twitter last night about exactly this of I would call them back because if you don't call them back, well, they're never going to have a better chance to make it than at the moment. All they've got to do is come in, work really hard, sort of not play with any fear, and they've got a place in the team.
And I think at a minimum, they will be expecting minutes if they're getting recalled, so they will be hungry to play. You know, which is more than could be said about a lot of players.
The only area I would disagree with is I wouldn't recall Lissa unless one of Samuel Smith or Casey got recalled.
Yeah, I can see that.
Look to leave him there because I don't think there'd be many opportunities for him. Whereas for Wilson,
true, he can only play on the left, can't he?
Yeah. Whereas for Wilson and Congreve, there could be plenty of opportunities, and I would bring back Ollie Cooper as well.
Yeah,
I think someone like that just legs, works really, really hard, you know exactly what you're going to get from him. He's going to go out there and put in a shift. We could do with someone like that at the moment. I would also, on loans, as we're at it, I'd be looking to try and sort out some sort of termination for Yalkoué and Benson in January.
Yeah, I definitely agree with Benson, to be honest. I mean, doesn't offer anything. And again, we've discussed chances and players being given chances. I don't see anything he's given in his even short cameos. You know, there are plenty of players, especially on the wing. I think as a winger, it is pretty ideal to sort of break into the squad because you can come off the bench and make a real impact. But my two highlights of Benson this season have been him losing his contact against Man City and just looking lost for 10 to 15 minutes, and then against Preston asking Sheehan where he was playing.
Didn't clock that bit.
Yeah.
Wow.
And you know, you think, right, another discussion I had with some of the boys, like I remember saying to them, like, Manuel Benson is such a simple player. Like, his whole job for, well, at least whilst I've known his career, has been to run down the wing, cut inside, finesse. What other role would he expect to be playing?
No, I know, that's a good point. I think he's just almost broken beyond repair. He's just had so many injuries that
it is a shame. He's like half the player that he was, and you know, it's similar to sort of like your Jeff Montero, I suppose, in a way. But it was one of them that was a risk. It was one of them that was a risk, and out of all of the loanees that were in that little bracket, he was probably the worst one we could have got in hindsight.
But hindsight's a wonderful thing. Because I remember saying
he could have been the best.
You were at the time because we all seen what you've done for Burnley. In the same way that I'm sure it's a good comparison, Montero, as I'm sure there are many clubs that were at Montero's side, for your Birmingham's and West Broms, who looked at highlight reels and thought, "Oh my God, look at what we're getting!" But injuries have just kind of destroyed him in many ways.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a reflection on him. It's science, isn't it? It is.
It's just reality. It's happened to a lot of our players in the past, and he clearly does just. Yeah,
it's the risk you take, and it just hasn't worked out, and that's fine. On Yalkoué, I just don't know what he is. I mean, that's something that can be said for a lot of our players we've signed. Vidal, I think you can say the same for. But for what we need at the moment, it would be unfair on him being chucked into this, I think.
Yeah.
What the last thing this situation calls for at the moment is a 19-year-old technical midfielder who is by very nature going to make mistakes in terms of just the role he plays and the fact he's so young.
Yeah.
I mean, if he got thrown in and the crowd just are on his back because he makes a mistake straight away or whatever, that could be detrimental for his whole career. And I don't think Brighton will want that.
And I think from the second he got that red card, I thought his Swansea career was done, to be honest. It's one of those moments where you look at a player, they already haven't offered much, and they sort of dig their own grave.
Yeah, it was stupid. It was no excuse for that as well in a game where between two pretty poor sides where there was not much in it. Even at 10 men, we looked decent. So to do that was just completely stupid. As you say, it's derailed his entire Swansea career. And I would look to send him back and roll the dice on somebody who can help us more. Yeah. Now, I think the loan market is going to be key for us in January. I look to Liverpool because of Vitor for that.
Yeah.
In terms of, I mean, the one that comes to mind immediately for me is Lewis Kumas.
Yeah.
I mentioned it on Twitter the other day. I think Liverpool won't be happy with the amount of football he's played at Birmingham. Matos will have worked with him directly in his exact role at Liverpool. I think it will be very tempting to look to bring him down here.
Yeah, I'd be doing everything we can to bring in Liverpool's best prospects, to be honest.
Yeah, I think so. Apart from one centre-back we've had before that he praised, and probably wouldn't look to bring Reece Williams back for a second occasion. But
well, where's he now? Morecambe?
No, he's still there. He's at Liverpool.
Is he?
Yeah, I don't know what he's doing, but he's there. Because he's one of those where, like, if you play 5 games for a big club, you're basically sorted for life in terms of
Yeah, yeah.
contract. So he's contracted for God knows how long there. But yeah, I think Kumas is one I would 100% be looking to bring in. Another one that comes to mind for me is Jamie Donnelly.
Yeah.
Barely played for Stoke. Now, that ordinarily you'd go, oh, I don't know about that. But that is somebody like Stoke are in a completely different situation to us at the moment. They are competing at the exact opposite end of the table. So to not get in their team means he could come here and very much get in ours.
Yeah.
And we look how good he was for Leighton Orient last season. He's one I'd definitely be looking to bring in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree.
But I think we have to look domestically in.
Well, we've discussed it, and we have to roll the dice and try something different. It would be just completely idiotic to go on with what we've got right now and expecting it to just magically improve overnight, because there are no signs of it really improving. Whether or not we looked good for 10 minutes at West Brom, that's not enough to that's not like substantive enough to suggest, okay, that we've got something to work with here.
Yeah, no, I agree, and I think we have to bring in sort of know how. I know it's not necessarily a recipe for success, but it's more likely to work than whatever we're
Yeah,
trying at the moment. I mean, you look at the two clubs who went most heavily on the type of recruitment that we did over the summer, and it's us and Norwich.
yeah.
And look what we have in common at the moment. We
Hmm.
have to course correct, even if just because I can't imagine we have many more of those ESC slots to play with.
Yeah. And Norwich are so similar to us. I mean, they signed Harry Darlin in the same way that we signed Cam Burgess. They signed a ton of players from abroad the same way as we did, who were, the next big thing. And we are in the same position of them. And I think that we've got to change that strategy, even just to give Vitor Matos a fair shot, because right now, this is not a fair shot.
No, I mean, there's multiple reasons why he's been given a knife to a gunfight at the moment, isn't it? And I
Yeah.
think chief among them is his staff not being in the building from day one.
Yeah.
But at the same time, he needs to be given, you know, at least an opportunity to bring in a few players that he wants to bring in. Of course, it's never easy inheriting someone else's squad, but he needs to be given the opportunity to bring in a couple of players that he wants to bring in. But I think that should be players. I mean, the sort of like simple way of looking at it is give him a list of anyone who's gettable who's played 100 championship games
Yeah.
and just go pick.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that probably is not the most productive way of doing it. And I'm sure there's people smarter than me paid to do more than that. But he needs to be given a chance to succeed, because at the
Yeah.
moment he's working with two hands tied behind his back.
Yeah. And everything I hear
His
about
staff aren't here.
Matos, everything I hear about him is so positive, from just, people from Portugal and stuff, people from around Liverpool saying the same things all the time, that, he's obviously a really nice bloke. He's a good character that to me suits Swansea, because I always say that, the ability on the football pitch needs to match the character. The same way that is the reason we liked Russell Martin. It's the same reason we liked Luke Williams. They're good characters. And, I do see something in him. Like, obviously, we were a bit concerned about that 12 games, he's only managed 12 games, but I
Yeah.
do see something in him and his philosophy. And I do have true belief in him, but he's got to be given that opportunity to succeed, because, as you said, he's working, with his hands tied behind his back right now. He's got to be given his own, what he wants.
I mean, Luke Williams talked about it on Not Top 20, that interview he did, where he said you cannot work without your own people. I mean, it's obvious who he was referencing in that, when, he said certain people never wanted me here in the first place, whatever that's in the past. But it's a lesson just from this club of how important it is to have a manager's own staff. There's a reason you bring in a coaching staff, not a coach. You cannot expect them to work alone. And don't get me wrong, perhaps it is visa issues and things
It
like
is.
that. I think it probably is. But this should have been sorted. If there was no guarantee that the staff were going to get visas and they'd be able to work and it was going to take this long, then I hate to say, but don't appoint the guy. If
Yeah.
you appointed him, you've got to go all in with the assurances of you will have your own staff, you will have players you'll have the opportunity to bring your own players in January, and give him a chance, because at the moment I really feel for him.
Hmm.
Things couldn't have really got off to much worse for Stat, and I don't think that's through any fault of his own. On the pitch, as off the pitch, exactly the right sort of character. Really like him. Very much says Swansea City manager to me. But he's being blamed basically for all our problems at the moment, despite having probably 3 training sessions.
Yeah.
I mean, I went up to West Brom on Saturday. You had a crazy reaction to him at full time. Coming over, people giving, hand gestures and whatever, and telling him to get back down the tunnel and all that, and pointing where to go. I'm sure you can insinuate what I'm saying here. But that's ridiculous. He's 2
Yeah.
games into his reign. I mean, give the man a chance. I mean, patience, I know, is lower in football now. Fans are less patient. You have to give the guy more than 2
Yeah.
games. This is
I'll always
ridiculous.
say it. The fans have to get behind him for him to succeed. It's simple. He's been given a 4-year deal. As a club now, we've gotten into a terrible run of sacking managers, of arguably poor appointments. This guy needs to be backed, because I just don't see a world where we sack another manager. I'm so bored of a new guy in the dugout every 6 months. I'd rather just give him his 4 years, even if it starts a bit turbulent. I wouldn't even sack him if we went down at this point, because I'm just so sick of new men in the dugout.
I think it's very premature to have those sorts of conversations. But
No, no, of course.
he,
I don't, but this is what I mean. Like, the fans just need to be behind him, because I just don't see a
yeah,
world where we can sack another manager anytime soon. You get what I mean? Even if it starts really poorly.
I think the reaction to him on Saturday. I mean, how much of that is directed at him? How much of it is directed at the players? You don't know, but it's about the perception of it, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think the players, absolutely, you can understand why the fans are giving them this ire at the moment, because they are not performing. And as if we've already said, in some cases, I don't even think the effort's there.
Hmm.
Whereas the manager, this is not his fault. And I really felt for him on Saturday at West Brom, because he cut a very lonely figure on the side, unfortunately.
Yeah.
It, it was Vital Swansea on Twitter who said it of, most coaches these days, there's iPads surrounding them, they've got all their own people, whereas you just had us turning up with one guy, expecting him to fix it all on his own. Don't get me wrong, we've got Britton and Allen back. They've never met each other this time last week.
Yeah.
So what hope does that have of
Yeah.
working? It was
And
basically just one man against the
mm,
world.
I think, I think now we'll see a bit less of a lonely figure with, Jose Mendes, Diego Mediores, and
Medeiros, I
Goncalo,
think, yeah.
yeah, and Goncalo Rica coming in. I believe there might be another one too. Um,
There's room for another one, he said. It
yeah,
was the
I think
original
that I
tweet,
think there
but
might be another one. And from what I know, they do sound like good figures and people who all have, different important roles in
and
his sort of
crucially his
system.
people.
Yeah, exactly. And it's what he needs. And I think now you can begin to sort of make early judgments once you've seen him with his staff, but
Hmm.
not when he's on his own with 3 club legends, and that's it.
Hmm. Yeah, I know, I agree. He needs his own people around him, because at the moment he's not been given a fair opportunity to get started, really. And in many ways, he can't even get stuck in until his people are here. Now, I think it's fair to say I don't think, in hindsight, he should necessarily have been in the dugout on Tuesday. He'd had at most one training session with the team. Now, obviously, Hellberg at Middlesbrough, remember that guy? He didn't go in the dugout on Tuesday night, left it up to the assistants, and he had a
Yeah.
watching brief, which I think is maybe what should have happened here. As it went, he's now being blamed for that performance when it was obviously in no part his fault. And I think you can say pretty much the same on Saturday as well. It was in no part his fault.
Yeah.
We have to go all in on him.
He was rushed into the dugout. You know, everyone knows that. I mean, you know, this isn't even, in my eyes, it isn't even a case of, oh, the club shouldn't have appointed him if his staff weren't ready or whatever. They should have probably waited for his staff to be ready to
Yeah.
throw him in the dugout. But, you know, that's another conversation. That's something we don't really know. Work permits are a very, you know,
It's a
interesting topic.
nebulous system, isn't it?
Yeah.
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 But I think this is the type of situation that is alleviated if you have a director of football.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
that's not something we have at the club at the moment, and I feel quite passionately that we should. Obviously, the sort of sporting director, what they actually do on a day-to-day basis, again, is sort of quite opaque. But it just feels like there's a power vacuum at the club.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's fair to say we've almost taken our eye off the ball, what's actually happening on the pitch.
Mm-hmm.
I think Tom Gorringe is a commercial guy, and
Yeah.
that's fine. You absolutely need that in football in this day and age. And Adam Worth is a data guy. So where's the quote unquote football guy in all of this?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Adam Worth, don't get me wrong, absolutely should have a say in transfers. We should be looking at analytics. We are a modern football club. You'd be stupid not to. But there has to be someone else there making a sort of judgment call.
It almost feels like they've tried to go back to a more traditional system, you know, the sort of way that got us from League Two to the Premier League with just a bunch of, you know, commercial and, you know, backroom guys just trying to get us up with little to no football experience in terms of actually on the pitch. But at the end of the day, you've got to have real footballing people making the decisions. You can't just have a guy who worked for BetMGM deciding every player we sign.
No,
You
I
know,
agree.
whether,
And it would also be good for Matos as well.
yeah.
Have someone else to lean on. I mean, you
Mm-hmm.
look at what Plymouth have done. Don't get me wrong, they're in a mess at the moment. But they brought in Derek Adams as a director of football, former manager. Now, you can look at that as, in the situation they're in, as undermining the manager slightly, potentially. Or, in our situation, where you've just appointed someone as an experienced head to lean on a little
Yeah.
bit more for a young coach. Because at the moment, there's very little football experience in the building, really.
Yeah. And
It's
that
just
is
Gorringe,
worrying.
and even then, his experience is the commercial side.
Yeah, it's very worrying because it's almost like it's flip-flopped, doesn't it? Because probably about a year ago, we were saying, where are the footballing people? We were having this exact discussion. And then we brought in Montague. We brought in a few footballing data guys who Montague knew. And then, you know, that sort of flipped to, wow, finally we have footballing people in the building. But now we're in turmoil again. And we are asking, where are the footballing people?
No, I don't really think it's relevant whether Montague did a good job or not. I don't
Yeah,
think anyone really knows what went on behind the
no.
scenes. But I find it bizarre to sort of just ditch that model
Yeah.
after this happening. And I think
Hmm.
there's a reason most football clubs use the director of football model rather than the traditional CEO model, which is what it feels like
Yeah.
we're doing at the moment. Now, perhaps it is disingenuous to not refer to Tom Gorringe as a football guy. And in terms of the commercial side, bringing Snoop Dogg and Modric on board, obviously he deserves plaudits for that.
Yeah.
Even if, how much of that was his work, you don't know. But he still got those deals over the line.
Hmm.
Whereas to have someone, I'm sure he'd say he's not the most experienced on the actual football side of things. I'd be very surprised if he's been involved
Hmm.
this heavily in a managerial hiring process before.
Yeah. The big issue is that it's almost like we're being ran as a brand, a business, rather than a football club. Sure, you know, partnerships with Death Row Records is great. All these, you know, owners coming in, fantastic. It's awesome. But I'd rather us win a few more games because we have footballing people in the building than have Martha Stewart watching our games. You know?
Yeah. And we cannot afford to take our eye off the ball in the way it feels like
No,
we have.
no, because commercially we are a club sort of waiting to explode now in the way of Birmingham and Wrexham because we've got these people and we've got people as interesting as they have. You know, Snoop Dogg is one of the biggest and most recognizable celebrities on earth. As you know, Luka Modric is a Ballon d'Or winner, one of the best footballers of the generation. But I don't care how many Instagram followers they have and how, big our marketability is if we are in League One. You know,
Yeah.
it makes no difference.
And it works together.
Yeah,
You can't have one without the other. You can't have success in football these days without, increasing your commercial income to give you more wiggle room to sign better players in terms of PSR. But you also cannot increase your commercial income if you're losing every week.
yeah.
Because who's going to tune in and watch that?
Hmm.
And who's going to buy shirts and celebrate that? It doesn't
Yeah,
work like that. You can't have one without the other. And I think in many ways, I don't think it's his fault, Tom Gorringe. I think he's probably just being asked to take too much on at the moment, if I had to
yeah.
guess. And we need somebody else to lighten that load.
He did cut window cleaner, so you have got to respect that.
That quote massively got taken out of context, didn't it?
Yeah.
I know exactly what he
He
means.
spoke really well as well. I'll be honest. Like
I
I
think he did.
I enjoyed listening to that.
I think on the commercial side of things, he's got it absolutely spot on.
Excellent.
We are
Yeah.
absolutely in a better position commercially than we have ever been.
Yeah.
But you can't improve that by being in League One.
No. And at the end of the day, we are a football club as much as we are a
Mm.
brand, a commercial asset. Like if the
We are
football
Swansea
clubs if the
City
yeah, if the football club's shit,
AFC.
the commercials shit. Like it's as
Mm.
simple as that.
Yeah, we're Swansea City AFC as opposed to Swansea City PLC or Limited or my knowledge of Companies House is not particularly
Yeah.
strong, but I don't know
Mm.
what we'd be down as. But as much as football is a business, it's still a sport at the end of the day, and we need
Yeah.
to remember that, I think.
Okay, we have some questions from the audience. It's a little segment we always do. First one is from Dax on Twitter. I've got to give a shout out to Dax because he might be the longest term Only Swans follower ever. I think he's followed for about 8 years. So shout out to Dax. He
Well done.
asked, are we really that bad at defending set pieces in terms of our tactics, or do we let them down via individual errors?
It's a tough one, isn't it? I don't really know if there's a sort of obvious way of measuring this. I mean, you'd hope we would have been better at set pieces than we are, in that Margetson is talked about as a very good set piece coach, very good goalkeeping coach. And Alan Sheehan's job practically previously at the club was set pieces.
Hmm.
So you would have assumed we would be good at setting up a structure to defend set pieces, which says to me it probably is individual errors. But at the same time, we do look weak from set pieces. That could be from any number of factors, such as coming up against big sides. There are some really big teams in this division, whereas we aren't one. There isn't that much height in our team, and that is going to cause problems for us at set pieces. But what is just as worrying, from my point of view at least, is we are the only team in the league who have failed to score a single goal from set piece this season. Now, that is not making use of key goal scoring opportunities. If you want to be a side with any hope in any division, you need to make the most of your set pieces because they're a key part of any football match. So to not score from a single one so far this season is seriously concerning.
Yeah, that is very worrying.
Next one we've got is Tim K Edits on Twitter. With a number of players underperforming to the end of last season, are we in for a season of struggle and should we genuinely fear relegation?
Um, I think from all of our conversations, in this podcast, you would suggest that we are slightly worried, but I don't know. I do have a sneaky suspicion that we might just turn it round and be okay, the same as we usually do, where we just end up in a sort of mid-table fight. Right now, it doesn't look good. Right now, it does look worrying. But hey, we've got to see, what Matos can do for us. Once he's got all of his staff in the building, of course, and we've got a January window ahead. We spent a lot in the summer, so there's nothing to say that we can't at least sign a player or two in January. And I think there is a real possibility we could turn it around because there is talent in this squad. We haven't seen it yet, but there is, undeniable talent in this squad. So, I don't know. I'm not too worried yet. I think you were more the worrier than me, personally. But
at the moment, we've been here before.
Yeah.
The problem is if we lose to Oxford and Pompey, we haven't been here before, we'd be in a lot more trouble.
Yeah.
We'd be in the driving seat towards relegation rather than just one of the passengers, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Whereas at the moment, we are still outside of the drop zone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But and I'm not as concerned as probably some, but at the moment, the picture could change very quickly.
Yeah, 100%. Now, the final question is from Sam G on Instagram, and it is specifically for you.
I think I know where this is going.
So, would you rather a free hair transplant or Swansea go up this season?
I don't think there's anything wrong with being bald. Swansea go up. I'm not losing my hair that badly. I'm not.
Show the hairline then.
Absolutely not. Not happening.
Yeah, well, there's a reason.
I'm not losing my hair. One day maybe, but at the moment it's just a bit thin. That's all it is.
Well, your dad's bald, so I mean.
Exactly. I'll just grow a beard. But I did 6 days of Movember and couldn't cope with it because of how much I hated having facial hair. But it's fine. I will just learn to grow a beard.
Yeah. Fair play.
Yeah, I'll take the Swans going up because at the moment, I'd have taken the Swans staying up over that at the moment. So we'll certainly take going up.
Yeah.
But yeah, we are hoping to be back more regularly, as we said at the top of this, more regularly again soon. We're pretty confident we'll have somewhere to film the podcast in person again that works for both of us soon. And yeah, we're excited to be back. Just wish it was in better circumstances.
Yeah, agreed.
As
always, we appreciate you all for watching, and we will see you all in a bit. Bye.
Okay.